Drones can be toys, tools for airborne races, spy gadgets, or used to film aerial footage. It's up to you. But the fact is that they're amazing and offer a ton of fun. Now, most high-quality drones cost above $1,000, which dissuades a lot of people. For more information on the products, I've included links in the description box down below which are updated for the best prices. Like the video and don't forget to subscribe. Now, let's get started.
Now, a question I get all the time is, what's the best drone? And really, I can't answer that, right? The question should be, what's the best drone for me? And that depends on two things. One, what is your purpose for the drone? And two, what is your budget? Now, I'm going to assume that your purpose for flying is to get good pictures and video and to have some fun, right? If you're into FPV, I'll make a video later on what I think it might be the best FPV drone for you. But for now, we're focusing on drones that take good quality pictures and video. And the place that I almost always tell people to start is this. This is the Rise Tello. It's about $100. You fly with your smartphone. It takes fantastic pictures, and the video footage from this is actually stabilized. It's stabilized electronically. Now, this Rise Tello was built in a collaboration between Rise, DJI, and Intel, and it has some really good smarts going on inside of this drone. Now, it doesn't fly super far because you're controlling it via your smartphone, but the intelligent flight modes that it has are impressive. Now, there's no GPS on this, but you can see there's some sensors on the bottom. It helps make it super stable. This is an excellent drone to start with, right? For beginners, people don't want to break the bank, this is a good place to start. You can even code this drone and have it fly things after you've programmed programs on the computer. I've done it with Scratch. There are a handful of different other ways you can do this. There's even an educational version of this drone. So the Rise Tello is a really good place to start if you just kind of want to dip your toe into the waters. Now, if you're looking for something under $100, there aren't a whole lot of really good options out there. And really, we're talking about toys at that point. But there's one that I might recommend, and that's the Syma X8, right? And the X8 HG is probably the best version. Now, keep in mind, it's just kind of you flying. And if you can fly that thing, you can fly some of these other drones I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to kind of bump up the prices in $100 increments and talk about what is the best drone at that price point. So we're talking about drones for value, and I'll also talk a little bit more about what is the best drone for you based on your purpose for that drone. Okay, so now as we go up in price, we get a little bit more features. This is the SG906 Beast Pro. That's right, it's a mouthful. And there's a couple of different versions of this drone. You definitely want the Pro version. I would say this is probably the best drone for about $200. So if that's your price range, this is your best bet. And the reason is it has a real 3-axis gimbal that's going to stabilize your footage. Now, this isn't going to give you professional quality pictures or video, but it does a much better job of pretty much everything else in the $200 range because of this gimbal. Now, the GPS is nice. It has some intelligent flight modes, but the biggest drawback to flying this is the app, right? It's kind of clunky. I'm not a super fan of it, and it just kind of limits the enjoyability of this drone. But if you're just looking for something that's fun, stable, has some smart GPS features, and a decent camera, the SG906 is the way to go for about $200. The next drone I would recommend is $400, and that's this, the DJI Mavic Mini. And this drone is $399, and this is the drone I would recommend you start with if you really want to get good quality pictures and video. This is probably the starting point for that. Now, I'm not saying professional video, although you could take this to something like a real estate shoot if you really needed to. The camera quality is just so much better than everything that comes before it. This gimbal is fantastic. It does a nice job of stabilizing the footage, and just the quality coming out of DJI is head and shoulders above most of the competition, right? I love this drone. It's something that I recommend. And look how small it is. It fits in your pocket. It's under 250 grams, and that's a really big deal. Why is that? If it's 250 grams or over, then it's subject to a lot of restrictions, and you have to register it with the FAA. You don't have to do it with this drone because it's 249 grams. Has some really nice flight modes, but not quite as many as some of the other DJI drones that I'll mention. But this is a great place to start if you really want to get some good pictures or videos. Say you're a hiker, a biker, you want to take some family photos, get some landscapes. this is a decent place to start. So between the $400 and $700 mark, there aren't really a whole lot of options out there that I'd really recommend. But there is one that I really like because it's so unique, and that's this. This is the Parrot Anafi, and you can find this between $600 and $700 generally. Sometimes you get a refurbished one for about $500, and this drone is very similar to the Mavic Mini in a lot of regards. One, it's super light, but it doesn't quite make that 250 gram mark. But this is what I really like about this camera, right? You have the ability to look straight up. And this is really one of the only drones that I know of that you can do that with. Some of them have a decent look up angle, but this one is great. So if you need to do some inspecting, it's a good place to start, right? Because you can get under something and then look up at it. Of course, you can get over it and look down at it as well. I'm also a big fan of the 21 megapixel camera and the ability to zoom and do the dolly zoom. It's made by the French manufacturer Parrot. So most drones are made in China. This one actually comes from France. It's GPS based and it has a bunch of intelligent flight modes. Now the thing about this that I think definitely has a leg up on the Mavic Mini is tracking things, right? You can get this one to follow you. You can do a whole lot of other tracking features with this that just aren't available on the Mini. Now the Mini has some of that, but there's just a whole lot more here with the Parrot Anafi. Okay, so this is the drone you want if your budget is $800 up to $1,000, and there's really no question. This is the Mavic Air 2, and this is DJI's newest drone, and it does some really fantastic things. This has the longest flight time of any Mavic ever made at 33 minutes. It's the only Mavic that can shoot 4K at 60 frames a second, and it has fantastic HDR video. You can even take 48 megapixel pictures with this thing. I love this drone, right? And it starts at $799. I'd actually recommend the Fly More package. Now that actually will put it at $988 right now, so $1,000 basically, but you get a couple of extra batteries and some other goodies that will help you make this a pretty fantastic flyer. Now, why would you want this? Why do you want to spend $800 versus $400 for the Mini? It just does a whole lot more. It has really good flight modes. It has better tracking, it's more stable in the wind, it just does a whole lot of things. For most people, this is probably the best drone you can get for the money if you can afford $800. It's not cheap, but it's darn near professional quality, and it does some really fantastic stuff. This is the first one that I've talked about that even has obstacle avoidance both in the front and the back. So this thing is really pretty awesome, and I'm a big fan of this drone. This is kind of my go-to drone right now. When I fly with this. But again, this may not be the right drone for you. If you are a professional and you need the absolute best in picture and video quality, there's really actually a couple of other options that might be better for you than this. So from the $800 to $1,000 price point, there really isn't much there that I recommend. The Autel Evo is nice, or at least it was until that Mavic Air 2 came out. It's a better value. But if you can spend a little bit more, the $1,200 Mavic 2 Zoom is a more capable drone than the Mavic Air 2. Right? The big thing that you get with this is the capability to zoom in on your subject. And that is a fantastic thing, and only the Mavic 2 Zoom will do that. So if you're a real estate photographer, this is actually the drone I'd recommend. Because of that zoom feature, you can kind of stay a little bit further away from your target and then still zoom in and get an optical zoom that's better than a digital zoom. A lot of these will do digital, but that kind of makes the image grainy and washes it out. This is fantastic. It has great flight modes, it's super stable, it has a flight time of over 30 minutes. There's a lot to love about the Mavic 2 Zoom, but it doesn't have the best camera available coming out of DJI. That belongs to the Mavic 2 Pro, or perhaps even the Phantom 4 Pro. Now, these are prosumer drones. If you're looking for something that you need the absolute best, you're looking at the Inspire series, and that just gets ridiculous in terms of cost. The Mavic 2 Pro, which takes really good pictures in low light situations, I'd actually recommend that. If that's what you need and you're a professional, the Mavic 2 Pro. Or if you don't mind the boxier, larger shape of the Phantom 4 Pro, or Phantom 4 Advanced, they have the same camera. The Phantom camera, I would say, is actually a smidge better than the Pro camera, but the Pro has this nice foldable shape. Hopefully this was informative and helps you make a decision on what the best drone for you might be, right? If you're looking to buy one, hey, I've got links down below. They are affiliate links, but that's, how we are able to keep creating content on this channel. You buy from those links. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps support this channel. Hopefully that was helpful. And go ahead and click that subscribe button for us. Hey, good luck and happy flying.